Good afternoon, everyone. Hello, good afternoon. काफी टाइम बाद मिल रहे हैं हम ना. ठीक है. नहीं, ये क्लास तो शेड्यूल थी. ये क्लास तो मेरे को फर्स्ट फर्स्ट फेब से पता है. इनफैक्ट आज क्लास थी. नॉट रैंडम. ठीक है. विदाउट फर्दर अडू लेट्स गेट स्टार्टेड. ज्यादा कॉम्प्लिकेट नहीं करेंगे चीजों को. अच्छा, नहीं पता आपको. ठीक है. I'll keep this in mind. ठीक है, चलिए, कोई बात नहीं. एक ये पैसेज है. This is the first question. You can take a look. Which one of the following best expresses the similarity between American individualist anarchists and free market liberals, as well as the difference between the former and the latter? Similarity or difference? American individualist anarchist और free market liberals में. ठीक. Author makes all of the following arguments in the passage. इन चार में से तीन चीजें भूली है author ने. What is the one idea that is common to all forms of anarchism? ठीक है. The author believes that the new ruling class of politicians betrayed the principles of the French Revolution, but does not specify in what way. In the context of the passage, which statement below is the likeliest explanation of that betrayal? Betrayal कौन सा है? Ruling class of politicians betrayed the principles of the French Revolution. ठीक. Of the following sets of concepts, identify the set that is completely conceptually closest to the concerns of the passage. ठीक है. 5 minutes. Read the passage, please. लिंक आप शेयर कर सकते हैं. सर यहीं पर हैं, आप पढ़िए तो सही, आरसी तो पढ़िए। खंडेलवाल साहब, गुड आफ्टरनून एवरीवन। हाँ जी, आरसी पढ़िए अभी। डन। ठीक है, तो एक बार पहले तो पैसेज पढ़ लेते हैं। इंटरेस्टिंग पैसेज। सो गाइस, अगर आप देखेंगे तो इसमें एक रूट वर्ड है ARCH, आर्क। आर्क का मीन होता है गवर्न या फिर रूल। एनार्की, नो रूल और नो गवर्नेंस। यू कैन हैव अदर वर्ड्स एज वेल, मेट्रियार्की, पेट्रियार्की, मोनार्की, ओलिगार्की, सब में आर्क आता है रूट। The word anarchy comes from the Greek anarchia, meaning contrary to authority or without a ruler, and was used in a derogatory sense until 1840, when it was adopted by Pierre Joseph Proudhon to describe his political and social ideology. Proudhon argued that organization without government was both possible and desirable. In the evolution of political ideas, anarchism can be seen as an ultimate projection of both liberalism and socialism, and the differing strands of anarchist thought can be related to their emphasis on one or the other of these. Historically, anarchism arose not only as an explanation of the gulf between the rich and the poor in community, and the reason why the poor have been obliged to fight for their share of a common inheritance, but as a radical answer to the question, what went wrong? That followed the ultimate outcome of the French Revolution. It had ended not only with the reign of terror and the emergence of a newly rich ruling caste, but with the new adored emperor Napoleon Bonaparte strutting through his conquered territories. The anarchists and their precursors were unique on the political left in affirming that workers and peasants, grasping the chance that arose to bring an end to centuries of exploitation and tyranny, were invariably betrayed by the new class of politicians, whose first priority was to re-establish a centralized state power. After every revolutionary uprising, usually one at a heavy cost for ordinary populations, the new rulers had no hesitation in applying violence and terror, a secret police and a professional army to maintain their control. For anarchists, the state itself is the enemy, and they have applied the same interpretation to the outcome of every revolution of the 19th and 20th centuries. This is not merely because every state keeps a watchful and sometimes punitive eye on its dissidents, but because every state protects the privileges of the powerful. The mainstream of anarchist propaganda for more than a century has been anarchist communism, which argues that property in land, natural resources, and the means of production should be held in mutual control by local communities federating for innumerable joint purposes with other communes. It differs from state socialism in opposing the concept of any central authority. Some anarchists prefer to distinguish between anarchist communism and collectivist anarchism in order to stress the obviously desirable freedom of an individual or family to possess the resources needed for living while not implying the right to own resources needed by others. So basically ये बोल रहे हैं कि अगर गवर्नमेंट नहीं होगी तो इन अ वे फ्रीडम ज्यादा होगी, ठीक है? That's the main idea of the passage. There are unsurprisingly several traditions of individualist anarchism, one of them deriving from the conscious egoism of the German writer Max Turner, 1806 to 56, and another from a remarkable series of 19th century American figures who argued that in protecting our own autonomy and associating with others for common advantages, we are promoting the good of all. These thinkers differed from free market liberals in their absolute mistrust of American capitalism and their emphasis on mutualism. I would not say the very easy passage, but gettable, relatable passage है, ठीक है? Moving to the questions. Which of the following best express the similarity between American individualist anarchists and free market liberals? Answers? Both prioritize individual autonomy, but the former also emphasize mutual dependence while the latter do not do so. American individualist anarchist बोलते हैं mutual dependence पे भी. A बोल रहा है both reject the regulatory power of the state. Guys, it's not that they're rejecting the regulatory power of the state. वो ये बोल रहे कि power, they're not rejecting power, they're promoting autonomous, being autonomous. Both are sophisticated arguments for capitalism. ये तो बिल्कुल ही गलत है. कैपिटलिज्म की तो बात ही नहीं कर रहे, वो तो इनफैक्ट अपोज करते हैं कैपिटलिज्म को. ऑल्ट्रुइज्म की भी कहीं बात नहीं हुई है. The answer has to be B. The author makes all of the following arguments in the passage except A. Individualist anarchism is actually constituted of many streams, all of which focus on the autonomy of the individual. ये तो बोला गया है. The popular perception of anarchism as espousing lawlessness and violence. Guys, lawlessness और violence की बात कहीं नहीं हुई है. Autonomy की बात हुई है, violence की बात कहीं नहीं हुई है. For anarchists, the state is this enemy because all states apply violence and terror to maintain their control. Yes, ये भी दिया हुआ है. ये भी दिया हुआ है. ये भी ट्रू है. The failure of the French Revolution was because of its betrayal by the new class of politicians who emerged from it. Yes, Napoleon आया था वहां से. B is your answer. According to the passage, what is the one idea that is common to all forms of anarchism? Guys, इसमें हमने बार बार बात करी है. ये बोल रहे कि हमें फ्रीडम चाहिए. There is no idea common. नहीं, ये तो गलत है. They all focus on the primacy of power of the individual. Not really. They all derive from the work of Pierre. Not all of them. They are all opposed to the centralization of power in the state. Yes. Correct. अच्छा, betrayal, ठीक है. The author believes that the new ruling class of politicians betrayed the principles of the French Revolution but does not specify in what way. In the context of the passage, which statement below is the likeliest explanation of that betrayal? A. The new ruling class rose to power on the strength of the workers' revolutionary anger but then turned to oppress that very class. Correct. Absolutely correct. Anarchists were politically strong enough. ये तो कहीं नहीं दिया हुआ. The new ruling class was constituted mainly of anarchists. ये भी कहीं नहीं दिया हुआ. Struck a deal with the old ruling class. ये भी कहीं नहीं दिया हुआ. First of all, A is true. Also, B, C, D are incorrect. You can follow the process of elimination as well. On that very basis, also, you will come up with the answer as A. Of the following set of concepts, identify the best conceptually closest to the concerns of the passage. Anarchism से शुरू हो रहा है. Revolution नहीं. Freedom की बात नहीं. A has to be the best answer. Correct. Next passage. This is the first question. किसका आदित्य? डी कैसे होगा? हाँ सॉरी, माय बैड. बेट्रेयल की कहीं बात नहीं हुई है. Anarchism, sorry, my bad, seriously. Anarchism, state, individual and freedom. Yes. D होगा, correct आदित्य. हाँ जी खुशी, D होगा. Which one of the following conditions, if true, could have ensured that male northern elephant seal dialects did not disappear? All of the following can be inferred from Libbouf's study as described in the passage, except that which one of the following best sums up the overall history of transformation of male northern elephant seal calls? Seal calls के transformation की बात हुई है. From the passage it can be inferred that the call pulse rate of male northern elephant seals in the southern rookeries were faster because call pulse rate of male northern elephant seals was faster because, okay. Shall we discuss this? Yes, okay. तो यार ये तो पैसेज भी आसान सा था. Let's read this. In the late 1960s, while studying the northern elephant seal population along the coast of Mexico and California, Bourne-Lebeuf and his colleagues couldn't help but notice that the threat calls of males at some sites sounded different from those of males at other sites. That was the first time dialects were documented in non-human mammals. तो हम बोल रहे हैं ठीक है. All the northern elephant seals that exist today are descendants of the small herd that survived on Isla Guadalupe after the near extinction of the species in the 19th century. As that tiny population grew, northern elephant seals started to recolonize former breeding locations. It was precisely on the more recently colonized islands where Lebeuf found that the tempos of the male voice displays showed stronger differences to the ones from Isla Guadalupe, the founder colony. In order to test the reliability of these dialects over time, Lebeuf and other researchers visited Ano Nuevo Island in California, the island where males showed the slowest pulse rate in their calls every winter from 1968 to 1972. What we found is that the pulse rate increased, but it still remained relatively slow compared to other colonies we had measured in the past, Lebeuf told me. At the individual level, the pulse of the call stayed the same. A male would maintain his vocal signature throughout his lifetime, but the average pulse rate was changing. Immigration could have been responsible for this increase, as in the early 1970s, 43% of the males at Ano Nuevo had come from southern rookeries that had a faster pulse rate. This led Lebeuf and his collaborator Louis Petronovich to deduce that the dialects were perhaps a result of isolation over time after the breeding sites had been recolonized. For instance, the first settlers of Ano Nuevo could have had, by chance, calls with low pulse rates. At other sites where the scientists found faster pulse rate, the opposite would have happened. Seals with faster rates would have happened to arrive first. As the population continued to expand and the islands kept on receiving immigrants from the original population, the calls in all locations would have eventually regressed to the average pulse rate of the founder colony. In the decades that followed, scientists noticed that the geographical variations reported in 1969 were not obvious anymore. In the early 2010s, while studying the northern elephant seals on Ano Nuevo Island, researchers Casey noticed too that what Lebeuf had heard decades ago was not what she had heard now. She performed more sophisticated statistical analysis on both sets of data. Casey and Lebeuf confirmed that dialects existed back then but had vanished. Yet there are other differences between the males from the 1960s and their great-great-grandsons. Modern males exhibit more individual diversity and their calls are more complex. While 50 years ago the drumming pattern was quite simple and the dialects denoted just a change in tempo, Casey explained the calls recorded today have more complex structures, sometimes featuring doublets or triplets. ठीक है, I think बहुत ही simple passage था. Which one of the following conditions, if true, would have ensured that male northern elephant seals dialects did not disappear? मेल नदन सीन्स के डायलेक्ट डिसअपियर नहीं हुए होते. ये बोल रहा है besides Ala Guadalupe there was one more surviving colony with the same average male call tempo from which no migration took place. माइग्रेशन नहीं हुई, ये हमें नहीं बताते कि डायलेक्ट क्यों डिसअपियर नहीं हुए. बी बोलता है द कॉल टेम्पो ऑफ इंडिविजुअल मेल सील्स इन द होस्ट कॉलोनी इज चेंज टू मैच द एवरेज कॉल टेम्पो ऑफ इमिग्रेंट मेल सील्स. चेंज टू मैच द टेम्पो, तो फिर डायलेक्ट डिसअपियर नहीं होगा उससे भी. Besides Isla Guadalupe, there was one more founder colony with the same average male call tempo from which male seals migrated to various other colonies. ठीक है, it still does not tell us why dialect did not disappear. D has to be the correct answer. The call tempo of individual immigrant seals changed to match the average tempo of resident male seals in the host colony. अगर चेंज किया होता तो उनका जो डायलेक्ट है वो वही रहता और डिसअपियर नहीं होता. Hence D. आगे चले. श्रेया, विनीत, देखो ये बोल रहा है द कॉल टेम्पो ऑफ इंडिविजुअल इमिग्रेंट्स मेल सील्स चेंज टू मैच द एवरेज टेम्पो ऑफ रेजिडेंट मेल सील्स इन द होस्ट कॉलोनी. अगर सेम हो जाता तो उनका एलिफेंट सील्स का भी सेम डायलेक्ट रहता. डायलेक्ट डिसअपियर नहीं होता फिर. All of the following can be inferred from review study as described in the passage except Chichen population migration had no effect on the call pulse rate of individual male northern elephant seals. Yes. The influx of new northern elephant seals into Antananarivo Island would have soon made the call pulse rate of its male seals exceed that those of island. Exceed की तो कहीं बात ही नहीं हुई है. Male northern elephant seals might not have exhibited dialects had they not become nearly extinct in the 19th century. Yes, we can infer this. बोला था वो दोबारा ऑलमोस्ट खत्म हो गए थे, दोबारा से आए थे. डी बोल रहे थे एवरेज कॉल पल्स रेट ऑफ मेल नदर्न एलिफेंट सील्स एट Antananarivo इंक्रीज फ्रॉम द अर्ली 1970s टिल द डिसअपियरेंस ऑफ डायलेक्ट्स. ये भी दिया हुआ है पैसेज में. द आंसर इज बी. ऑल ऑफ यू आंसर्ड दिस करेक्टली. आगे चलते हैं. Which one of the following best sums up the overall history of transformation of northern elephant seal calls? यार अगर हम हिस्ट्री की बात करेंगे तो बेसिकली हम बोलेंगे पहले सिंपल होता था, फिर डबलेट्स ट्रिपलेट्स भी आने लगे तो कॉम्पोजिशन उनका इवॉल्व होता गया, धीरे धीरे डिफिकल्ट होता, कॉम्प्लिकेटेड हो गया. A says owing to migrations in the aftermath of near species extinction, the calls have transformed from exhibiting complex composition, less individually great regional variety to simple composition. Okay. ये बोल रहा है calls have transformed from complex to simple. ये तो उल्टा है. B. The calls have transformed from exhibiting simple composition, great individual variety. इसमें ये देखो ये ठीक है. Exhibiting simple composition to complex composition and great regional variety, ये गलत है. Regional variety उनकी कम हो गई थी. Owing to migration in the aftermath of near species extinction, the average call pulse rates in the recolonized breeding locations in gradual increase until they matched the tempo. ऐसा कहीं नहीं दिया हुआ. The calls are transformed from exhibiting simple composition, less individual variety, and great regional variety to complex composition, great individuality, and less regional variety. Exactly what is mentioned in the passage. From the passage, it can be inferred that the call pulse rate of male northern elephant seals in the southern rookeries was faster. Yes, B is correct. ठीक है. See, Pratap, I'll tell you what, vocab is important not per se for the examination. As such, exam में vocab का question नहीं आएगा. But to be an avid reader, to be a good reader, आपकी vocabulary अच्छा होना ही चाहिए. तो you don't have to study vocabulary separately, but having a good vocabulary will definitely help you. Another passage. This is the first question. Which one of the following can be inferred with regard to the use of currency during Tang era? The modern currency system shares all of the following features with that of Tang, except when discussing textiles as currency in the Tang period, the author uses the word steady and stable to indicate the following, except. During the Tang period, which one of the following would be an economically sound decision for a small purchase in the local market that is worth 1/8 of a bolt of cloth? प्रताप, उसके लिए भी जितना आप पढ़ोगे ना, रीडिंग करते रहोगे, आपकी वोकैबुलरी खुद ही इंप्रूव होती रहेगी. ऐसा मैं आपको बोलूँ डिक्शनरी पढ़ने से तो वोकैबुलरी इंप्रूव होती नहीं है, मतलब याद नहीं रहेगा आपको. द मोर यू रीड द बेटर योर वोकैबुलरी. Shall we done with the passage? आप लोग कह रहे हैं किया हुआ है पहले. आई डोंट थिंक हमने किया है. आपने पढ़ा होगा तो पता नहीं. सोर्स का जो ऐसा है यार, सोर्स तो कोई भी हो सकता है. Few realize that government of China governing an empire of some 60 million people during the Tang dynasty 618-907 implemented a complex financial system that recognized grain, coins and textiles as money. Coins did have certain advantages. They were durable, recognizable and provided a convenient medium of exchange, especially for smaller transactions. However, there were also disadvantages. A continuing shortage of copper meant that government mints could not produce enough coins for the entire empire, to the extent that for most of the dynasty's history, coins constituted only a tenth of the money supply. One of the main objections to call for taxes to be paid in coin was that peasant producers who could weave cloth or grow grain, the other two major currencies for the Tang, would not be able to produce coins and therefore would not be able to pay their taxes. As coin had advantages and disadvantages, so did textiles. If in circulation for a long period of time, they could show signs of wear and tear. Stained, faded and torn bolts of textile had less value than a brand new bolt. Furthermore, a full bolt had a particular value. If consumers cut textiles into smaller pieces to buy or sell something worth less than a full bolt, that too greatly lessened the value of the textiles. Unlike coins, textiles could not be used for small transactions. As noted, textiles could not be exchanged by the foot and the inch. But textile had some advantages over coins. For start, textile production was widespread and there were fewer problems with the supply of textiles. For large transactions, textiles weighed less than their equivalent in coins, since a string of coins could weigh as much as 4 kg. Furthermore, the dimension of a bolt of silk held remarkably steady from the 3rd to the 10th century, 56 centimeter wide and 12 meter long. The values of different textiles were also more stable than the fluctuating values of coins. The government also required the government also required the use of textiles for large transactions. Coins, on the other hand, were better suited for smaller transactions, possibly given the costs of exporting coins for more local usage. Grain, because it rotted easily, was not used nearly as much as coins and textiles, but taxpayers were required to pay grain to the government as a share of their annual tax obligations, and official salaries were expressed in weights of grain. In actuality, our own currency system today had some similarities, even as it is changing in front of our eyes. We have cash, coins for small transactions like paying for parking at a meter, and banknotes for other items, checks and debit credit cards for other, often larger types of payments. At the same time, we are shifting to electronic banking and making payments online. Some young people never use cash and do not know how to write a check. बहुत सारे लोग आप में से भी ऐसे होंगे जिनको कैश और चेक यूज करना नहीं आता है. बहुत ही आसान सा पैसेज था, बहुत डायरेक्ट क्वेश्चन है. Which one of the following can be inferred with regard to the use of currency during the Tang era? I think A is the best answer. हाँ जी ठीक है. According to the passage, the modern currency system shares all the following features with that of the Tang, except that it uses different materials as currency. Currencies fluctuate in value over time. Yes. ठीक है. D is the best answer. Steady and stable to indicate all of the following except. ये भी बहुत ही डायरेक्ट क्वेश्चन है. Reliable supply, yes. Reliable measurement, yes. Reliable quality, yes. Transportation की कहीं बात नहीं हुई है. Which one of the following would not be an economically sound decision for a small purchase in the local market? That is 1/8 of a bolt of cloth. सवाल है which one of the following would not be an economically sound? मतलब out of these four, 3 will be economically sound. B, C, D are economically sound. Hence A. Next passage is about vocabulary. This is the question. Which of the following quotes best captures the main concern of the passage? Could be seen as supporting the arguments in the passage. All of the following statements can be inferred from the passage except. Take any noun, put it with any verb, and you have a sentence. It never fails. Rock explodes, Jane transmits, mountains float. None of the following statements can be seen as similar except. आसानी लग रहा है passage में. Inferring from the passage, the author could be most supportive of which one of the following practices? Take a look at this, please. lecturer, tell me. क्या डाउट है बोलिए. बताइए. Comprehension. Exact sentences need not be retained. Don't worry about it. All right, nakshatra. Done ji. Pasan passage again. Vocabulary used in speech or writing organizes itself in 7 parts of speech, 8 if you count interjections such as O and gosh and Fugel about it. Communication composed of these parts of speech must be organized by rules of grammar upon which we agree. When these rules break down, confusion and misunderstanding result. Both grammar produces bad sentences. Bad grammar produces bad sentences. My favorite example for Strunk and White is this one. As a mother of 5 with another one on the way, my ironing board is always up. Nouns and verbs are the two indispensable parts of writing. Without one of each, no group of words can be a sentence. In a sentence, by definition, a group of words containing a subject, noun and a predicate verb. Guys, ये थोड़ा सा गलत लिखा हुआ है. Noun की जगह pronoun भी हो सकता है, ठीक है? But we need a subject and predicate. Subject can be a pronoun as well, but let's go about what is being said. These strings of words begin with a capital letter, end with a period, and combine to make a complete thought which starts in the writer's head and then leaps to the readers. Must you write complete sentences each time? Every time? Perish the thought. If your work consists of only fragments and floating clauses, the grammar police aren't going to come and take you away. Even William Strunk, the Mussolini of rhetoric, recognized the delicious pliability of language. It is an old observation, he writes, that the best writers sometimes disregard the rules of rhetoric. Yet he goes on to add this thought, which I urge you to consider. Unless he is certain of doing well, the writer will probably do best to follow the rules. The telling clause here is useless. He is certain of doing well. Unless he's certain, not useless, unless he's certain of doing well. If you don't have a rudimentary grasp of how parts of speech translate into coherent sentences, how can you be certain that you're doing well? How will you know if you're doing ill, for that matter? The answer, of course, is that you can't, you won't. One who does grasp the rudiments of grammar finds a comforting simplicity at its heart, where there need be only nouns, the words that name, and the verbs, the words that act. Take any noun, put it with any verb, and you have a sentence. It never fails. Rocks explode. Jane transmits. Mountains float. These are all perfect sentences. Many such thoughts make little rational sense, but even the stranger ones, Plum's deify, have a kind of poetic weight that's nice. The simplicity of noun-verb construction is useful. At the very least, it can provide a safety net for your writing. Strunk and White caution against too many simple sentences in a row. But simple sentences provide a path you can follow where you fear getting lost in the tangle of rhetoric. All those restrictive and non-restrictive clauses, those modifying phrases, those appositives and compound complex sentences. If you start to freak out at the sight of such unmapped territory, unmapped by you at least, just remind yourself that rock explodes, Jane transmits, mountains float and Plum deify. You see, यहाँ पे इन्होंने full stop डाला हुआ था. यहाँ पे full stop है, यहाँ पे full stop है. यहाँ पे इसने full stop नहीं डाला हुआ था. ने comma डाल दिया. So the author is here giving you an example of a complex sentence. Grammar is the pole you get to grab when your thoughts are up on their feet and walking. ठीक है भाई, मुझे तो आसान लगा पैसेज क्योंकि it's about language और मैं तो उसमें तो मेरा काम है. Questions देखते हैं. Which one of the following quotes best captures the main concern of the passage? Yep, absolutely. Which one of the following statements, if false, could be seen as supporting the arguments in the passage? If false, question is which of the following, if false, supports the could be seen as supporting the arguments in the passage. So आपको सारे sentences का उल्टा देखना है. Perish the thought that complete sentences necessarily nouns and verbs. Guys, this is my answer. क्योंकि हमने बोला था nouns and verbs, इसमें बोल रहा है perish the thought कि इस thought को भूल जाओ, और हम बोल रहे हैं किसी भी complete sentence के लिए noun और verb तो जरूरी है ही. तो B का opposite अगर हम लेंगे तो supporting argument हो जाएगा passage का. All of the following statements can be inferred from the passage except subject predicate relationship is the same as noun verb relation. Yes. The primary purpose of grammar is to ensure that sentences remain simple. On the contrary, उसमें बोला है नहीं, बहुत ज़्यादा simple sentences नहीं होने चाहिए. Caution against too many simple sentences in a row. I think I already have my answer. सी बोल रहा है sentences do not always have to be complete. Yes. Grammar police is a metaphor for critics who focus on linguistic truth. Yes. You might have heard of the term grammar Nazi as well. Take any noun, put it with any verb, and you have a sentence. It never fails, rocks explode, Jane transmits. None of the following sentences can be seen as similar except. Yeah. Yes, okay. Inferring from the passage, the author could be more supportive of which of the following practices? ए तो नहीं होगा क्योंकि उसमें बोला हाउ टू अवॉइड द यूज ऑफ रिटोरिक, ऑथर तो बोलता है रिटोरिक यूज करना चाहिए. द क्रिटिक ऑफ स्टैंडर्डाइज्ड रूल्स ऑफ पंक्चुएशन एंड कैपिटलाइजेशन, ये भी ठीक है. A campaign demanding that a writer's creative license should allow the breaking of grammatical rules, नहीं. D is your answer. I think easy passage था. Overall ये पेपर ही आसान था. अच्छा, these classes are not mandatory guys, इसलिए आपके लिंक पे ग्रुप कुछ बताया नहीं गया था आपको. We will have a class again tomorrow. So कल हम देखेंगे slot 2 2019 का, ठीक है. चलिए, I'll see you tomorrow. Thank you guys for joining in.